This guy has the ability to move at super speed, defying the laws of physics and changing the position of objects in space. How he takes advantage of this power will be revealed in the review of the movie X-Men: Days of Future Past. At the beginning of the movie we see a picture of a horrific future. The world is in ruins. Humans and mutants are held in internment camps. The last people left at liberty are the X-Men, the superheroes. They are being hunted down by the Sentinels, mechanical soldiers who have enslaved the entire planet. They track down the X-Men and attack them. The mutants use their superpowers, incredible strength, fire, freezing, the ability to create portals, but it all proves useless against the Sentinels. The mechanical warriors have no trouble dealing with the mutants. One of the X-Men, Kitty Pryde, is able to send a person's consciousness back in time. Witnessing the devastating consequences of the Sentinels' attack, she sends her comrade a couple of days back. He warns the entire team, and the X-Men manage to escape. Yet after another escape, the mutant group is found by their senior companions, telepath Charles Xavier, metal manipulator Magneto, and Wolverine, aka Logan. Charles Xavier says it's time to stop running from the Sentinels. They need to travel not just a couple of days back, but 50 years. It was then that a man named Bolivar Trask created the Sentinels. The scientist was terrified of mutants, and Sentinels became his superweapon. Charles' named sister, the shapeshifter Mystique, tried to protect the mutants. She found Trask, and the scientist did not survive their encounter. But his fate only proved to the world that mutants were dangerous. Mystique was captured, and a new, more advanced generation of Sentinels was created from her genetic material. The machines first dealt with the mutants, and then with the humans who could give birth to mutant children or grandchildren. But if they stop Mystique, none of this will happen. Kitty warns, if you send a person's consciousness 50 years back, no brain will survive. No brain except Logan's. After all, the guy can regenerate, so Logan is sent from 2023 to 1973. He wakes up in his own body, in the arms of an attractive girl. Just a minute later, Logan is immediately attacked by a couple of suspicious guys. But firstly, bullets don't affect him, as he instantly regenerates. And secondly, he's Wolverine himself, and has a super weapon, claws. The opponents are knocked out, and Logan takes the keys to the car and steals it. Meanwhile, Bolivar Trask delivers a speech at a congressional meeting. He tries to get funding, but no one is interested in the Sentinels program. Mutants live quietly and don't bother anyone. Why develop a weapon against them? However, Trask doesn't give up. His people attempt to kidnap mutants from Vietnam, but a local colonel stops them. It turns out that Mystique was disguised as that colonel. She immediately starts a brutal fight and saves the young mutant, who, by the way, also used their superpowers against the soldiers, causing them to vomit and pass out. The group manages to escape and fly away on an airplane from that dangerous place. But Mystique stays behind because her main goal is to get Bolivar Trask. In the meantime, Logan arrives at the mutant school, which was founded by Charles Xavier. A young guy named Hank McCoy opens the door for Logan, and then quickly transforms into a mutant and attacks Wolverine. Dealing with a tough guy like Logan, though, it's pretty tough, and soon Hank is hanging from the chandelier. At this point, young Charles Xavier appears. Logan finds out that the school is no longer in operation, and Charles himself, after suffering a spinal injury, has become dependent on a powerful drug. It allows him to walk, but blocks his telepathic powers. Logan begs Charles to help, and he agrees, but only to save his named sister, Mystique. Charles doesn't want her to become a monster. Now, they must find a young Magneto. Rumor has it that he attempted to assassinate Kennedy, was caught, and now is held in a secret bunker beneath the Pentagon. But how do you extract a person from the most secure building in the world? Logan knows someone who can help them. This guy's name is Peter, and he's incredibly fast. He's also a kleptomaniac. Breaking into the Pentagon is a real adventure for him. It's hard to resist a guy with such speed. The guard who delivers Magneto's food loses his hat, and here comes Peter himself in his uniform walking down the corridor. He shatters the protective glass in Magneto's cell with his super fast vibrations. After that, our characters escape with incredible speed. The moment Charles Xavier sees Magneto, he punches him in the face. Magneto was once his friend, but their paths have parted. At this point, the guard attacks them once again. Suddenly, Logan releases his claws. Magneto lifts a bunch of different objects into the air, and time seems to freeze. Peter calmly puts on his headphones and races through the chaos with his super speed. He runs on walls, takes the scattered food, and ensures the guards hurt themselves and not the mutants. He changes the position of their hands, sends plates in the desired directions, turns guns around, and makes the guards hit themselves. And at the very last moment, he manages to change the trajectory of the bullets headed at the mutants. Magneto and the others are shocked by this guy's abilities. Our characters fly to Paris. On board, a fight nearly breaks out between Charles and Magneto, but the fate of the world is at stake. The mutants have to make a truce. Meanwhile, Mystique seduces a diplomat from Vietnam who arrived in Paris to sign a peace treaty between humans and mutants. The guy gets a little privacy with the hottie and offers her to take off her clothes. Mystique suddenly starts turning blue and with a swift kick knocks out the diplomat. She takes on his appearance and enters Bolivar Trask's speech. He brags about creating the Sentinels, mechanical robots with special genetic targeting system. They only target mutants, which means ordinary people won't be harmed. The tracker did not only work but also points to Mystique. A fight breaks out. Mystique is a real fighter, and it's not easy to confront her. Soon, all her opponents find themselves knocked out. The only one left is Bolivar Trask. At that very moment, Logan, Charles and Magneto burst into the room. They stop Mystique and prevent her from committing the crime. However, Magneto decides that the mutants won't be safe as long as she's alive. After all, Trask can obtain her DNA to create the new Sentinels. Despite his warm feelings towards Mystique, Magneto attacks and hurts her. At this point, Logan's consciousness begins to balance between the past and the future, causing him to lose control of the situation and fail to recognize the people around him. Luckily, Kitty manages to stabilize his condition in the future, and Wolverine's memory returns. Meanwhile, the fight between Mystique and Magneto carries over to the street. The girl begs for help, and her comrade takes a bullet out of her. Is there really a truce? Yet, no. Magneto still intends to take Mystique's life. That's when Hank attacks him. A crowd watches the spectacular mutant battle. Taking advantage of the moment, Mystique runs away. Hundreds of witnesses believe that mutants attacked the politicians and disrupted the signing of the peace treaty. If previously one didn't believe Trask, now everyone agrees with him. Mutants become the #1 threat. President Nixon provides Trask with funding to create the Sentinels. Seeing the abilities of Magneto and Mystique, Trask decides to create more advanced polymer robots without a single gram of metal. It seems that the X-Men not only failed to prevent a dreadful future, but also hastened the course of events. Meanwhile, Magneto and Mystique meet again. Killing her no longer makes sense, as Trask obtained samples of her DNA after their last fight. Now Magneto believes that the only solution is a war between humans and mutants. Either one or the other will survive. Charles Xavier also decides to take action. He stops taking his medication. His legs become paralyzed, but his abilities return. He connects to Cerbero, a machine that enhances his telepathic powers. However, Charles can't handle it. He's lost faith in himself. To help him, Logan suggests that Charles looks inside his head. There, Charles sees events from the future, not only the bad ones, but also the good ones. Charles sees how many people he can help. Through Logan's mind, he communicates with his future self. Old Charles asks the young one to believe in himself, because, after all, he is humanity's last hope. In the meantime, Magneto gets his hand on the new polymer Sentinel. He stuffs them with metal so he can control them at the right moment. Charles returns from his mental journey. He connects to Cerbero, locates Mystique and tries to reach out to her. However, persuading Mystique is not successful. Instead, Charles decides to find out where she is headed. Her destination is Washington. Trask plans to present his Sentinels there. Logan, Charles and Hank head there to stop Mystique. Charles has fully regained his ability to control people's minds, so they have no problem getting into the presentation. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned. While Charles tries to figure out who his named sister has transformed into this time, Magneto lifts the entire stadium off the ground. And what's worse, at that very moment in the future, the X-Men are about to be attacked by the Sentinels. and they have very little time left. Mystique, disguised as a Secret Service agent, tries to get to Trask, but Charles finds her. Using his abilities, he convinces her to stop. Meanwhile, Magneto activates the Sentinels, and they take off into the air. The shooting begins, targeting people and vehicles. President Nixon and Bolivar Trask are sent to an underground bunker. Mystique follows them, disguised as a guard. At the same time in the future, the Sentinels finally catch up with the X-Men. The final battle begins. It's a fight for survival. The X-Men realize that they cannot win, and at least try to buy some time for Logan and Kitty. We see them sacrifice themselves and die one by one. The Sentinels leave them no chance. We return to the past. Magneto gathers an entire army of Sentinels around him, bringing the stadium down on the White House. So he cuts the president off from the world, the police and the military. Logan and Hank try to stop him, but he pits the Sentinels against the mutants. Logan makes his way to Magneto, but he twists him with a rebar and tosses him into the river. Then he rips the metal bunker out of the ground and opens it like a tin can. Young Magneto points all the cameras at himself and addresses the mutants. He urges them to cast aside fear, unite and challenge humanity. All the mutants listen to his speech with interest and hope. In the future, Magneto and Charles Xavier shake hands. They have been enemies for a long time, but it seems now they are living their last minutes. In the past, President Nixon emerges from the wrecked bunker. He begs Magneto to spare the people. Let him take the president, but he shouldn't harm anyone else. When Magneto is distracted by one of the Sentinels, the president suddenly shoots him. It turns out that it wasn't Nixon at all. It was Mystique, assuming his appearance. She decides to protect the people from Magneto, but she hasn't forgiven Trask either. Mystique turns on her main enemy, but Charles Xavier once again gets inside her head. He begs Mystique to stop. She has already saved people. She can show them that mutants can also be heroes. Charles believes in his sister. And he's right. Mystique drops her weapon, and the future is reset. Mystique walks away, and Charles switches to the consciousness of the wounded Magneto. He realizes that if humans catch him, they will definitely destroy him as the greatest threat to humanity. But Charles Xavier doesn't want that, so he lets him go. No matter what Magneto has done, they still remain friends. Meanwhile, Logan regains consciousness. Not long ago, he was drowning in a river in 1973, and now it's 2023 again. The reality around him has changed. No internment camps, no Sentinels. Logan finds himself in Charles Xavier's school for young mutants. He sees all his friends, even his beloved whom he lost in a different reality. But this reality is completely different. Logan doesn't know what happened since 1973. He meets the older Charles Xavier, who explains everything to him. In 73, the Sentinels created by Bolivar Trask rebelled and nearly killed the president and the entire nation. Fortunately, a mutant saved the president. Mystique became a national hero. Trask was arrested and his program was shut down. Society has come to accept the existence of mutants, and Charles played a significant role in achieving that. In the past, a warship had pulled up Logan from the bottom of the river. The rescue operation was organized by someone named William Stryker, but we noticed that Stryker's eyes turn yellow, just like Mystique's. And what superpower would you like to have? The ability to control people or to throw stadiums? Give us a like and subscribe, and we'll bring you some cool videos. This was the Movie Cat channel. I'll see you soon.